Hey everybody, welcome back to my channel. I'm Brianna Lenz, and today we are going to be making this super cute, super sweet project bag. Now this doesn't have to be a project bag. I'm going to be using as a project bag for my cross stitch, but you could be using this for anything, like in your everyday life. Travel bag, whatever, kids' toys, anything. But this was so fun to make. So I'm learning how to quilt, and I've always wanted to make a quilted bag like this. I've made a ton of zipper bags, but I've never made one like this. So this is my first time making the Sawtooth star, and I did it with 3 different fabrics that I got from Joann's of Halloween 2024. And I like the vibe. I like the Pinkoween vibe. I like that it's a little bit rock and roll in my opinion, and it's super cute. And in the inside, it has really pretty lining as well. So really you just need about half a yard, less than half a yard, but half a yard will give you a lot of what you need of the lining fabric and the outer fabric. And then of this fabric, you only need about a 1/4 yard. So you need a half a yard of the pink fabric, 1/4 yard of the accent black fabric, or you could just do half a yard if you just wanted to make this all the same type of fabric. And then the only different fabric would be the pink. So that's up to you and your budget. So I used this fabric as my lining fabric, and I really, really like it. I think it's super cool. And then you're going to need batting. I just used natural batting that I've had for a long time. I used pink thread. I had a 14-inch zipper. And then the other thing that I used, if you're going to be doing this, is I used a free download from United Notions and apparently from Kathy Schmitz. I found this on Pinterest, and this was really helpful to me. So, you can make this quilt star in a variety of sizes. I chose the 12-inch size. My quilt star ended up being my entire block ended up being 12 3/4 inches to 13 inches after quilting. So I'm a beginner quilter, so that's probably just me and my user error. So I just made it work. And then if you are, you can use this process for any quilt block that you want to do. And so I'm just going to walk you through the process really briskly so that way you can see how you can easily achieve a quilted bag just like this. All you need is your sewing machine, and all I did to do the quilting is I just altered my stitch length up to like 1/2 inch and then another 1/2 inch, and I just eased my tension a little bit when I was using different bulky portions. And then also, I didn't even use a zipper foot. I just used my presser foot, and then I just used the 1/8 inch to a 1/4 inch seam allowance gauge. And I actually prefer not to use a zipper when I'm doing simple bags like this. So let's go ahead and get started into today's tutorial on how to make this quilted project bag. So the first thing that you need to do to have a quilted zipper bag is you need to have a patchwork front or patchwork front and back. I decided to do the Sawtooth quilt star because I've always wanted to do this, and I'm a beginner quilter. I have some really cool Halloween fabric, so I decided to use 3 different prints for this. Then once I had my patchwork done, I looked at the measurements, and it ended up being about 12 3/4 inches square. So I cut a piece of backing fabric 12 3/4 inches square. That size doesn't really matter to you as you're watching my tutorial. The only measurement that really matters to you is that if you have a 14-inch zipper, just make sure that your front and back pieces are about 1 inch smaller in the width. So for ease, just make sure that your quilt block is 13 inches or less in the width department, and you'll be solid. And so the next thing that I did is I took batting, and I just cut out batting that was at least 1 inch wider and bigger than my pieces all the way around, as you can see. And then I used fusible adhesive, spray fusible adhesive for the first time, and I sprayed that to my batting, and then I attached the quilt block, and then I attached the lining to it, and then I actually went to my iron and I ironed this down for 30 to 45 seconds as the directions told me to. I've always used fusible interfacing for my zipper bags if you've seen my previous videos. So this was awesome. This took me right back into my comfort zone. So this was a really easy way for me to be able to go take these pieces to my machine to then quilt the batting to the patchwork. So for the patchwork, what I did is I just stitched in the ditch, and I'm really happy with that result. Could I have used black for the inside of the square? Sure, but again, I'm a beginner quilter and I really like how this turned out. I'm really proud of my work. And then for the back side, for the lining, I actually just put a diagonal with one of my friction pens. And then from the diagonal, I just measured out an inch all the way out. And those were my guidelines. And I just took this to my machine and I just quilted straight lines. Well, I mean, they were diagonal, but they were straight, right? And I just went up half a stitch length and I went up half like I eased the tension on my machine just a little bit. And I didn't have to use a walking foot or anything like that. And I don't feel like this fusible adhesive gunked up in my machine at all. Once you have your front and back pieces quilted, then you need to trim off the excess and square them up the best that you can. So for mine ended up being 13 inches wide by 12 3/4 inches high, and that's what I trimmed it down to. Now, I made sure that the front and the back were the same size. Then I was able to go to my lining and cut out my lining to be 13 inches square, and I could have done 12 3/4 inches, but it was just easy to go ahead and do 13 inches square for me, and that's what I did. All right, now all of our prep work is done. Now we get to get into the meat and potatoes. We get to do the zipper. Once we sew the zipper, it's all downhill from here. We are going to have a zipper bag before you can even say supercalifragilisticexpialidocious. Okay, so what you need to do is you need to take one piece of lining and your main piece, your patchwork piece. That's what I like to do. And so you're going to take your zipper and you're going to place it so that the zipper is face up. Then you're going to have your lining fabric on the bottom, face up, place your zipper on top of the lining fabric so the zipper is face up, and then you're going to place your outside fabric, like your patchwork fabric, face down so it's facing the zipper. And then you are going to pin, if you have pins, you can also use the little clips like I have, and you're going to clip that tightly all the way across. And make sure that that is nice and tight so when you take that to your machine that shouldn't budge while you're sewing. And you can either move the zipper so it's out of the way and then zip it back up after you're done sewing that section, or if you're fine with it, you can just keep on going. You might have more room on your zipper than I did, and so I just moved my zipper inward a little bit and then moved it back up. So I took this to my machine and I just sewed 1/4 of an inch in, and this attached to my zipper really well. If you like to use a zipper foot, please be my guest. All right, once you have that all sewn together, just make sure that your zipper is facing upwards, that your lining is facing the way that it should be. Just do all your final checks. Then you're going to take this back over to your ironing board and you're just going to iron all of your fabric so it lays well, because you want everything neat and tidy, and this is going to make sure your work is really clean. Finally, once we have all of our checks and balances into place, you're going to go ahead and get everything ready to sew again. So the first thing that you need to do is lay down your remaining lining fabric facing the correct way and facing up. Then you're going to place your sewn work that we just did and place that right on top so that the top of the zipper is facing towards you. And then you are going to lay your remaining outside fabric face down, and you're going to sandwich all of those pieces together. And what you're going to want to do is you're just going to want to make sure that your outside fabrics are as square as they can be, because that will make sure that your work is as clean as it can be later on. Then you're going to go ahead and just pin or use those clips just like I did again, and then take that back to your machine and sew straight down one more time. Once that sewing is complete, do your ironing, make sure everything is really neat and tidy, and then use more clips and pins, and you're going to open it up, and you're going to, as you can see, have your lining and your outside fabric lay really nice. And then you're going to take that to your machine and you're going to do 1/4 of an inch top stitching away from the zipper on both sides to make sure that the lining and the outside fabric stay in place. All right, now you can go ahead and remove your pins and your clips. Make sure that you snip as many threads as you can to keep your work clean. And you're going to open your zipper. And this is where we're going to sew everything together to make it the bag. So open your zipper now and just leave about 2 inches away from the end. And you're going to bring your 2 outside fabrics together. And then you are going to take your 2 lining fabrics and meet them together. And you are going to pin this all the way through, like all the way around, but just double check that you have your zipper open. If you don't have your zipper open, you're not going to be able to pull your bag through later. The number one thing that I like to do right here is I like to make sure that my seams match at the zipper. That's the most important thing to me every time I make a zipper bag. So I go to my zipper and I make sure that everything meets as much as they can on both sides, and then I will adjust everything around accordingly. But the number one thing is to make sure that the 2 sides are as clean as possible to make your work look as clean as possible. So you can see I am fiddling with the 2 sides of the zipper to make sure that the 2 outside pieces match, because that's where the eye is going to catch if they don't match correctly. And I'm going to place my clips here. I actually flipped this around. This side was shorter, so I flipped my clips over so that way I would make sure that I hit all sides, plus this is the nicer side that I want to display. Also, when I do my lining, I switch to pins because this can be slippery. And then I also diagonal pin in my corners. Then for your lining, make sure that you leave 3 to 4 inches of space that you don't sew. Okay, because this is where you're going to be putting your hand in to turn everything right side out. So go ahead and just leave yourself whatever markers you need to, like for me, mine would be clips because I'm using pins. And you want it to be in the center as much as you can. And then when we finish everything, you can hand sew or you can machine sew this closed. But this is what this should look like right now. And again, make sure that that zipper is open. If your zipper is not open, you're not going to be able to turn everything right side out. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to go to my machine and I'm going to start in this corner and I'm going to go down and then hit this. I'm actually going to go over this twice, go around, hit the corners, and go over this twice, and then come back here and then stop here. And I always go forwards and backwards about 4 or 5 times on both ends because these stitches are going to have a lot of stress when you're pulling everything right side out. Once you have everything sewn, take it back to your cutting table and cut around the edges so that way it's about 1/4 of an inch. Clip your corners so that way there's not that much bulk, and also clip the excess zipper. You don't need it anymore. You're gonna see the magic once we turn this all right side out. All right, now you get to pull everything right side out. Okay, so right here is that hole I was talking about. I'm just gonna iron it in like this, and then I'm gonna take black thread and just machine stitch it closed. You can hand sew it, but no one's gonna see it. And I'm gonna give it an iron, and then I will be right back. All right, and here she is. She's all done. All right, so that's it, you guys. I hope that you found this helpful. I hope that you feel like you can achieve this. If you are a beginner quilter, you absolutely can do this. This is a really good project to learn how to quilt. I am learning how to quilt myself, and so I think that one of the best ways that you can learn how to do anything is to just take like bite-sized portions of something. Like if you are the type of person that's like, no, I'm just going to learn how to quilt and do like a full-size quilt, I say good for you. For me, I did that and I had trouble with learning how to quilt everything together. I kept getting my fabric all munched up. So I have done, I've quilted a quilt block and put it on a sweatshirt. I have done the log cabin quilt coasters, and now I have done this project bag, which was on my to-do list, and so I'm really, really pleased with it. And so if you found this video helpful, please let me know down below. Please hit the like button so that way YouTube knows that you liked this video, and please don't forget to subscribe if you haven't subscribed already, and I'll see you guys in my next project and in my next video. Bye!